Hello lovelies, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video we will be cutting our front and our back bodies together. So my fabric is folded into four, just like you guys can see. So the next thing I'm going to be doing is to insert my horizontal measurements, right? So the first thing I did is to mark my bust point at 6.5 inches. Then I'll mark my waistline at 13 inches, and then I'm going to be marking my hemline. Remember, this is a short gown, so it's not going to be long. So the length of the gown is at 29 inches, if I'm not mistaken. That I added my hemming allowance to it. So I'm just marking the lines across, and this style is for a 6 to 7 year old girl. The next thing I did is to insert my shoulder measurement divided by 2, and I added half-inch allowance for my sleeve. I'm just going to connect the line straight to meet my bust point. Then the next thing I'm going to do is to insert my neckline, and from the width of my neckline I marked at 3 inches, and for the depth I marked at 2.5 inches, though I later added half-inch to it to be 3 by 3. So I'm just going to make a curve to give it a round neck. I'm still struggling with knowing how to place my French curve. I just decided to use my hand to save myself the stress of going around and around and making the video long. And for my shoulder slope, I'm going down by 1 inch, and I'm going to connect it to my neckline. Then the next thing I'm going to do is to insert my bust measurement divided by 4, and that is 7.5 inches, if I am not mistaken. Then I added 1 inch allowance for ease, and then 1.5 inches allowance for stitching allowance. Remember, it's not a fitted gown. So I decided to try the French curve again, hoping that it works this time around, and yay, it worked. I'm able to figure it out how to place it. So the next thing I did is to insert my waist measurement divided by 4, added 1 inch allowance for ease, and then 1.5 inches allowance for my stitching. And I just noticed that I did not insert my horizontal hip measurement, so that's what I am doing now. And then I'll mark the line across before we go ahead and insert our round circumference measurement there. So the same thing we did in the other ones, hip divided by 4 plus 1 inch allowance for ease, and then 1.5 inches for my seam allowance. So I'm going to go ahead and then extend the measurement I have at the hip to my hem, and I'm going to go ahead and connect all the lines that I just marked, all the points. Then for the back neckline, I'm going to be marking 1.5 inches down, and I connected it to the front neck width. And that's all for the cutting of this style. If you want yours to have zip, please cut your back body separately and add your zipper allowance. But for me, I do not want it to have zip. Please give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, you are enjoying this video, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed to my channel up to this moment. So I just separated the two fabrics, and then cut out my neckline, my front neckline. So for this sleeve, I want it to have a very short sleeve, that's why you see my fabric very small. So I have my fabric folded into 4. We are cutting the back and the front body on the two armhole, the two sleeve together. Sorry about that. So the first thing I did for this is to mark 4 inches from the beginning of my fabric. I went in by 4 inches. Just go ahead and do the same thing. Then for this, my sleeve cap side, I am going down by 4 inches. You can do 4.5 or even 5 inches. Then at that 4 inches that I marked, I'm going to insert my round sleeve measurement, and then I added my allowance there. Then I'm going to extend the 4 inches I marked at the beginning of the fabric to the 4 inches I marked downward. If you haven't seen the detailed video of my sleeve, the long, the short, both adult and children, please check it out. It's in my channel. I'll put it in the description box. So at that line, I just divided what I have there into 2. So I'm just going to connect these 3 points from the beginning of the sleeve to the center point I marked there, and then to the end of it. You can see the way I flipped my French curve when I wanted to cut the remaining one. If you don't have a French curve, you use your hand the same way you see me curve all this. Use your free hand and then cut it. And that's all for the sleeve. Then we'll go into other part of the tutorial. Remember, this is a short free gown. It's not a fitted gown. A very short, simple gown that we are trying to cut. So there's nothing serious about it. It's just a free short gown. Then for the design at the front, which you guys can see, we are going to be cutting it. I'm going to cut it in my paper before transfer it to my fabric. So what I did is to fold my paper into two, and then I will fold again, making it four, just like you want to fold for your flare. So that's what we are going to do. The next thing I'm going to do is to calculate our radius, and my radius is 10 inches. So 10 inches divided by 4, I have 2.5 inches. Because my fabric is folded into 4, that is why I am dividing by 4 inches. So I'm going to mark the 2.5 inches all round from the beginning of the fabric, just like you see me do. Then from that 2.5 inches, I'm going to mark the length of the piece, how long I want it to be. So I want it to be about 2 inches long. So I'm going to be adding my seam allowance there. I'm going to be adding my stitching allowance to, that's why it's wider than it's supposed to be. I added about 1 inch stitching allowance. I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. Then I'll open it up and then cut the two from the two sides, just to have two semicircles. That's what we are trying to achieve here. And then this is what I cut out, the 2.5 inches I cut out. We are going to use it to make our circle on the design. And I noticed that it's too big, so I'm going to go ahead and reduce it to reduce it. And this is what I have. I think this is perfect for me on the design we are working. So I've gone ahead to transfer it onto my fabric. This is the fabric I'll be using for it. It's a crepe fabric, and the red one is also a crepe fabric, but it's a light one. So I cut the pieces into two, each side into two. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch on both sides, and then from that end I'm going to turn it inside out. And then for the circle, I cut it into two as well. If you have your lining, please make use of your lining to do this. But I'm using my fabric, so I'm going to face it front facing front, stitch it, leave some opening there, and then use the opening to turn it inside out before stitching it down. Then onto our bodice, I'm going to be doing place it front facing front. Then I'm going to go ahead and stitch on the two shoulders. You can pipe your neckline before doing this, or you can use facing to do it. I think I piped my neckline before stitching my shoulder. It's easier for me that way. So what you will do is to place your fabric bias on the right side, stitch it, and then flip it over to the wrong side to complete it. So this is our pieces. I've gone ahead to iron it down as well. So we are going to go ahead and attach it on the fabric as I am done stitching the neckline and the shoulder. So what we're going to do is measure from our armhole. From our armhole, I went down by 5 inches, and I made a point there. Then I'm going to place this. I made the point that I made there. This fabric is going to be at the middle. The point is going to be at the middle of the fabric. I don't know if you understand me, so I'm going to move it, that point, to be on the middle of this piece. And then I'm going to go ahead and pin it. And whatever you are, wherever you are placing it, remember that you have 1.5 inches stitching allowance. So I would advise you place it at about 5.5 inch or more, more inward, so that by this time you stitch your allowance, it is not going to be outside your fabric. I hope you understand this. Then I'm going to also place the circle and then pin it down. Then stitch on the fabric on two places and also the circle, and I'll repeat the same process on the other side. So from my armhole, I'll be marking 5 inches down, and then that semicircle piece, I'll place it at the middle, make the point to be at the middle of the piece, and I'll go ahead and pin it down, and also pinning the other side, making sure I arrange everything well. Pin my circle before going to my sewing machine to stitch it down. Okay, for the sleeve, we're having light issues, so I had to move to another location. So for the sleeve, the first thing I'm going to do is to hem this, and then stitch it down. Just little allowance for it, little folding. Then, after that, this is it. After I was done, with the stitching of the design on the gown. And then for the sleeve, what I'm going to do is to place the sleeve and the gown front facing front, and then I'll start pinning it from one end to the other. I'm not going to do it on camera because of how I am bending because of my waist. So this is it after I was done stitching the two sleeves down. So after pinning it, just go to your sewing machine and then stitch it down. The next thing I'm going to do is to place the gown to arrange it very well, front facing front, and then I'm going to stitch it down with my allowance. Remember, we added 1.5 inches allowance, so I'm going to stitch it down on both sides. And also I went ahead to hem it after I was done stitching the both sides. And this is it after I was done with the gown. I'm going to go ahead and iron it whenever the light comes up, and then attach the buttons at the center front of it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. Bye.